All right, guys, welcome back to the Adam and Peter Fitness Podcast. Today on the show, I have Alan Thrall. If you guys are really, if you started off in the 2010s, you know who Alan is in fitness. Some of the newer kids might not know who Alan is, but Alan's been putting out lots of different types of fitness content throughout his entire career, I guess, on YouTube, and has been lifting for quite some time. Like I'd assume, like at least like over a decade, right?
Oh yeah, lifting weights formally really since middle school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's been at this for a while, and I think one of the most unique things about Alan is that he has experience doing lots of different forms of fitness. He's been getting into running more recently and bodybuilding, but originally more into strongman and powerlifting and strength sport. And I think that that's something that's interesting to look at because I think that one of the things that a lot of people are struggling with right now, especially in fitness, is quote unquote burnout. And I believe that's due to, not really enjoying training and enjoying just lifting weights for lifting weights' sake. And I think that's something that Alan has always kind of, as something I've always noticed about you. You seem to always be enjoying what you're doing. And you're not afraid to shift. So I guess just to start off, I wanted to ask, like, why did you start off like specifically with like the strength sports, doing the extreme diets to get as muscular as possible, and as strong as possible, and sort of like what has, sparked these more recent changes in bodybuilding and running?
Yeah, so I think that originally with training, it was I just loved playing football. I started playing Pop Warner football, and I started running and doing a little bit of weight training just because I wanted to be a better football player. And in high school, my first mentor was my high school football coach, and he would take us through workouts in the weight room. And so I loved doing those workouts, mainly just because I wanted to be a better football player. Um, I took a little break from lifting when I graduated high school because I was no longer playing football, and so the love for lifting, just solely for lifting, wasn't really there. I actually got into running more long distance running for a period of time, and then I decided to join the Marine Corps. And while I was in the Marine Corps, once I got some free time, I started going back to the gym and lifting weights on base. And I just kind of fell in love with just actually lifting weights, not really for a sole purpose or goal, other than I just loved being in the gym. And then eventually opening my own gym. But I would say that once I kind of fell back in love with lifting weights, uh, and a couple of guys that I met while I was in the Marine Corps, they were really into strongman training and powerlifting. They didn't really compete in that, but they just loved that style of training. And so I started to love doing that as well. And I think that when you're in your early 20s, you're extreme with any approach that you have. And so that was the time when I was like, all I want to focus on is strength. I want to gain a bunch of weight. I want to like transform myself because I was a really skinny, more of a long distance runner, especially out of boot camp. And I was like, I want to be huge. I want to be like one of the world's strongest men. And so I was doing things like eating 8,000, 9,000, 10,000 calories a day, drinking over a gallon of milk a day, stuff in my face. And that was just an extreme approach, I think. And I think that people tend to be like that when they're young and in their 20s, early 20s. So that was just a time in my life. Like I would never do something like that now. But anyways, eventually that started to wear out, like I didn't feel like it was to a point where I didn't feel like I needed to stuff my face like this just to get strong, just to be strong. And eventually I was like, I'm just tired of eating all this. It's exhausting. It's expensive. I want to be able to do more things than just squat a barbell. And so I just started to cut down a little bit of weight. And then eventually it was kind of just after doing it for such a long time, strictly powerlifting and strongman training, I just wanted to add some variety in. I kind of wanted to start running and just get a little better at that. So I started incorporating that in. And so that's just the progression of whenever I have an itch to do something or to bring something back into my routine, I don't really hesitate to do it. I just start incorporating it now and then just make some changes as I go. So really it's just a change in interest or priorities that kind of shifts where my interest goes, really.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's that's funny that you mentioned all those extreme diets and being early 20s. I think it's just like it's that stage of life where you're just it's like such a big part of your life, and you feel like every workout is the most important one. Funny enough, my brother actually he stumbled upon your videos, and really interested in strongman, and he started doing the same thing that you did, and he definitely got pretty big. So that definitely worked, but I think that it's also really important to I guess not be afraid to try out different things. And I think there's lots of different things that you can learn from each aspect of fitness. There's a lot of discipline with bodybuilding and certain, areas like, being able to maintain a leaner physique year round. And, what do you do? How do you treat every single exercise differently than with strength sports? Um, I want to ask you, like, have you noticed that like any part of this journey has been like more or less fulfilling for you, or has it all been sort of equally as fulfilling?
You mean like different styles of training?
Yeah,
Like there are different strength sports.
yeah,
Yeah, so like strongman, powerlifting, bodybuilding. I would say that, and for the record, I've never like formally done bodybuilding. I've just followed more of a hypertrophy bodybuilding program for like a year and a half strictly, that a guy named Natural Hypertrophy wrote for me. But it was never competitive. I've done everything else competitively, but not bodybuilding. And so, anyways, I would say that I enjoy strongman training still the most, just because there's the most variety involved in that. You have to be athletic, you have to be explosive, you have to be statically strong, you have to be able to have some sort of conditioning or aerobic capacity. So there's a lot more variety, and it's much easier to program for if you like variety in your training. If I was to, there's still powerlifting incorporated in that, but just strictly one rep max, bench squat, deadlift. Uh, I'm not I'm not too fond of right now, or I don't like just focus on that only. Um, and then same with bodybuilding. There's a lot of variety in bodybuilding as well, but there's just more variety in strongman training, which is why I tend to do that most often. And I would say it was the most enjoyable for me.
yeah. No, I like that. I think that it's just kind of just goes to show that there's different phases of your life, and that people are likely going to have different interests as they progress in lifting. And it is what it is. I also think like with strength sport too, you get to this point where it's just so much time for so little return. I know that you mentioned that one of your videos. It's like, I'm really willing to train for a year for another 10 pounds on my squat. And I
Mhm.
think that's a good question for a lot of people, because I think that there was like a research study that just came out on this. It's like people gain most of their strength in like their first 2 years of training, and it takes like a decade for like the last like 10%, which is like 1% per year, and that's pretty hard pill to swallow. There's absolutely nothing wrong with exploring other things that keeps you more interested in the overall process. So I also know that you've started like building you have your own gym, Untamed Strength. Number one, like why did you call it like Untamed Strength? Like, what inspired that name?
Yeah. So my buddy actually came up with he actually is the first one who said untamed strength. But it was when I was in the Marine Corps and I was about to finish my contract in the Marine Corps, my 4 years. I made the decision a couple years in that I wanted to open a gym. And so I was looking forward to getting out of the Marine Corps so that I could go open my own gym. And I'm talking with one of my buddies about the gym, about my idea. And we were like, we were talking about the name of it. What am I going to name it? And I said, well, I want it to be a strength focused gym. And so I want strength to be in the name of the gym. So everyone knows right away that it's not, um, fitness necessarily. It's not CrossFit, something that just sticks out till you know exactly what it is. It's like a yoga studio should have yoga in the name. So I wanted this strength to be in the name. And I told my buddy when I get out of the Marine Corps, I want three things. I want a gym, a beard, and a ponytail. And so those were the three things I wanted that I couldn't have when I was in the military. Obviously, you got to maintain clean cut and all that. And I was just I was tired of being told what to do. And so I wanted to be self-employed. I wanted to be a civilian. I wanted to do everything on my own terms. I didn't want a boss. I didn't want to work for anyone else. I wanted to do my own thing. And so I was kind of trying to explain that, and my buddy came up with, what about Untamed Strength? We bounced around a bunch of different names. I don't remember them, but he was the one who said, "What about Untamed Strength?" And I was like, "Damn, I like that. That's a good idea." So that's where it came from. Just getting out of the military, I am now untamed, and then I wanted strength to be in there too. That's where it came from.
That makes sense. I've always wondered about that. But honestly, your gym is a private gym, not a commercial gym. And I go to a private gym too. I think one of the biggest reason like why I gravitated towards like a more private gym over um a commercial gym was like the more sense of community that like the gym has. And I want to ask you about what you've noticed about, the community at Untamed Strength and how it's sort of I guess like having like that community impacts like progress and people's like relationship with the gym because I know like a lot of people there's a big difference between commercial gym and private gyms if people have ever been to them. Um, like what are some things that you've done to create the environment and atmosphere that you want for your members?
Yeah, I think that as far as creating a good community or an atmosphere for a gym, it starts with you as the gym owner. If I was to just open a gym with a whole bunch of money and then walk away or go to my day job and expect the gym to just a good community of people to grow, it's highly unlikely. So, because this was the only thing I've done for the past 11 years, and because, I've been in the gym, and at the time I was at the gym all day, every day. So, everyone that comes in meets me. I might take them through workouts. And so, this community is kind of grows with my help. I'm there to tend to it, to monitor it. I guess in a sense, like keep bad people out, or kind of create this community myself. Um, and I'm not trying to take all the credit, but I think that as a gym owner, you need to be there in your gym present. You're kind of the face of the gym. And that's what helped grow the community to what it is now. I can be much more hands off now because there's a huge core group of members that have been there for a long time. They know all about the gym. They kind of, police the gym, if you will, while I'm not there. And so I think that it starts with you. You have to be there. You have to tend to it. You have to take care of it. You have to have I guess, your boots on the ground if you are kind of wanting to build that community. And I think that having a good community really helps with the members' experience. So it might be unlike a 24-hour fitness gym where everyone's in there doing their own workouts. There's nothing wrong with that, but um, there's a social atmosphere, a social part of going to the gym and working out with your friends or seeing familiar faces. And I think that that helps with the overall experience, but also with member retention in a certain way. Uh, if someone were to if you were to cancel your membership or stop coming to the gym, people might start texting you, "Hey man, where you been? What's going on?" So do you have that like a bit of accountability when you have almost like a team of people expecting you to be there or saying hi to you or seeing you. Whereas if you were just a faceless person clocking into a commercial gym, and you stop coming, nobody's going to know you're gone. So that aspect is definitely good. Now, it's not to say everyone there is a social butterfly. Some people do just put their headphones in, they go to the gym, train, and leave, which is totally fine. But I think that that community helps with just the members' experience. Like I said, one thing to I don't want to say correct you, um, but the terminology. Some people have asked if they've thought that Untamed Strength was a private gym, meaning it's like almost like a invite only. That's not the case. It is a public gym in the sense that anyone can sign up. Um, but I kind of think of a private gym more as like an Olympic weightlifting gym with a coach, and you have to almost like try out to go there or see, hey, do you have space for me to join the gym? Sure, fill out this inquiry. Are you a competitor? If not, we only work with competitors. I think that would be more of a private gym atmosphere. That is a public gym in the sense that anyone could come work out or sign up for a membership. It's not a corporate gym, so there's just one location. So it is I guess the terminology would be it is a privately owned gym. Like I'm the only owner of the gym. But yeah, just to avoid any confusion, because I've had people ask me that, or just say, "Oh, I didn't know. I'm not a competitor. I don't do powerlifting. Would I be able to join your private gym?" I'm like, "Sure you can. It's not private necessarily, but yeah, I've ran into that before, so that's why I mention it."
I think that's some good clarification. That's how my gym is too. I think that I guess like more privately owned is the right way to put it. But I definitely do agree with you. Like I do like there's the social aspect of things, and then the community with like having the accountability. Like if somebody doesn't show up to the gym, like I'm like like people will start like being, oh, like, are they okay?
Mhm.
Have they fallen off the face of the earth? Um, and it's a really good thing, especially for somebody like me who works online, as an online coach, and that's like my social space. It also is, some people just go there and like you said, they like to just head down and work. And sometimes I get in that mindset, I'm there to train, but having people around there that are supportive of your goals and that are just positive people, I think that makes a really big difference in people's, I guess, adherence long term, because one of the biggest things I hear from newer clients who are not really comfortable in the gym is that they're intimidated by it. It seems like, people that always been lifting for a while, they're going to always be like judging them. And I think that when they go to more of a private gym and there's less of that awkward standoffish nature that some people have at commercial gyms, it's much more inviting and people are much more encouraged to show up. And I guess what are some things that you think that people like could do in general to sort of, I guess, change that perception about gym culture as being like this really standoffish thing that is like really hardcore and not like very welcoming? Is I think that you and I could probably both say that like most people like us who have been doing this for a while, been doing it for a lot longer than me. Like I'm happy to see people come in the gym. I don't judge them, if they're regardless of their shape. But I think that some people have that perception or stigma about the gym, or people that are more like consistent.
Yeah, I run into that often, especially people think that Untamed Strength is a hardcore gym. Oh, I don't do that powerlifting stuff. I don't do that strongman stuff. It's not for me. But again, anyone can come in and use the gym. It's not, I would say that just to reassure people, I think that, the big guy in the gym who's big, intimidating, bench pressing all this weight, maybe grunting, screaming and yelling, getting some back slaps, staring, mean mugging around. I think that he's probably just self-absorbed. All he's thinking about is himself. He doesn't care about you. So it's not that he's judging you or worrying about what you're doing. So I think that most people in the gym are just to themselves. And so I would rest assured that nobody is probably judging you or even knows you're there. If you kind of wanted to, avoid, you think all eyes are on you. I know it feels that way. And I get that. I totally do. Um, but it's usually not the case. In fact, even to speak from experience, I have been in the gym for pretty much my whole life, like more of my life than I've not been in the gym. I own a gym. I know what I'm doing in the gym. I'm confident in myself. But even still, I recently I dropped in at a Gold's Gym because I was out of town, and yeah, you like walk in, and I've never been there, so I walk in, I kind of stop at the front, I'm looking around, like I have an idea of what I'm gonna do today. Where can I work in? And I do feel like everyone is staring at me right now because I'm sitting here looking around like I'm the new guy. And even though I'm like so comfortable with the gym, I go to the benches and I'm looking. I'm like, all right, which bench is open? And then I'm like, okay, none of them. This one doesn't have people there. This one has weights on it. Is someone using it? I don't want to take these weights off because someone might be using them. I'm looking around. So I just feel like, man, I just like all eyes are on me right now. And anyways, and I'm comfortable being in the gym. So I can't imagine someone who's like never been in a gym, doesn't feel comfortable in their own skin, and then they go into a gym and experience that. So I totally get being uncomfortable going to the gym. But again, I just tell myself, uh, people are just to themselves. They got their headphones in. They're probably not thinking about what I'm doing or worrying about what I'm doing. Um, and yeah, so I would just say that there's probably nothing to be afraid of. I think that it's helpful if you start a gym, if you go to a new gym, ask one of the employees for a gym tour. And they can walk you around and tell you, hey, this is where this happens. If you want to do some deadlifts, do it over here. Whatever. It can be nice to go into the gym and just get a tour and not have any obligations of like, okay, I have to do this workout where I'm going to do it. So a gym tour could be nice, but that's what I'd say.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point about how most people are truly just worried about what they're doing and what their sets are doing and their training. That's one of the things I tell a lot of my powerlifters who are like, it's like, have you seen like the "This is my deload" shirt? It's like
Yes.
I'm actually a lot stronger than this. Like, trust me. It's like nobody cares. Like,
Yeah.
really, nobody does care. And like, like I recently have been dealing with like a back tweak, and I was like, dang it, like I have to go a lot lighter on my squats because squats hurt a lot more. Deadlift feels fine, which is weird about pain. But I was like, well, hopefully people know I'm hurt. And I'm like, oh, nobody cares. Like really,
Yep.
nobody does. And I think that you have to just be really just embrace the process and your own journey and where you're at. Remind yourself that everyone was once a beginner. Everyone, didn't know what they were doing. Everyone was like once week two. And I think that's one of the things that you could always just like take like some inspiration from like more of the people that have been there for a long time. At least that's what I'm able to do. And even people that are like stronger than me or have been doing this for a lot longer. Like, I think there's a lot to learn from people that have been there for a while. And I also just encourage like talk to people. Most people are very kind in the gym. Most people, they're you have to like work in with them and just say, "Oh, my name's Adam, by the way," and you meet like a new friend, and all of a sudden the gym is a lot less scary because you know somebody there, and then you're going to have like fist bumps or whatever. And I think a lot of times people like people that are really, I always say to people like if somebody is negative, they are not like a part of this community, in my opinion. They are, self-absorbed and not really positive. I really do think that the fitness community at large and the people that are really into it, like the best part of it is that it's supportive, it's uplifting, it's about really becoming the best version of yourself and just focusing on, doing what's best for you right now in your journey and also understanding that it looks different for everyone and you're gonna have different phases of it. Um, like when you were in your early 20s, you could be a lot more extreme and a lot more selfish with it. And then when you get to be older and you're dad and you own a business and your husband, it looks totally different. In fact, that's one of the things that I want to ask you is like a lot of people struggle with that transition from being single and maybe they'll have like a girlfriend or to marry life and then being a dad and really managing their fitness. A lot of people use it as an excuse to stop training, stop eating properly, and just kind of like let themselves go. And I haven't seen you do that. And I wanted to ask you, like, number one, like, what motivated you to number one, not let yourself go and still keep up as close to exercising, and dieting properly, and like also like, how did that look different? Like, how did you change things to be able to, given your new lifestyle?
Yeah, I think that as far as going from single, um, no kids to being married to having kids, I think that it really comes down to not being selfish. Um, you can be selfish when you're a bachelor, you have all the time in the world, but once you're married, once you have kids, you just have to not be so selfish. And so you kind of have to compartmentalize life. You have to be able to switch gears to, okay, now I'm going to give my wife full attention. We're going to do something. I'm just going to be with her. I've got this newborn baby. I need to take care of the baby. But you need to be able to switch it on and off, which takes some practice. And it takes time to get better at. So, for example, you might be a bachelor with all the time in the world. You think about training. I'm going to prep all my meals today, and I'm going to eat these times so that I can be feel good when I train. I'm going to do this. I'm going to work this time. I'm going to go to the gym at this time. You can think about it and plan everything for around that training session. Whereas now you've got to be able to flip it on and off when you have a newborn or two kids in the house, and you have you're a business owner. You have a whole bunch of duties. I need to take care of this. I'm going to train today. I'm going to train in 2 hours. And when that 2 hours is here, switch it on. It's time to train. Train, be done with it, move on. So you really have to shift gears, which takes time, I think. Um, but I would say that was the most important thing. Don't be selfish. Be able to switch gears. Um, yeah, and honestly, I would say that with each of these changes, I tend to do better when I'm under a little bit of pressure. So I'll give you a couple examples. When I was in the Marine Corps, and I had to, abide by the rules and the structure of what I was doing in the Marine Corps, uh, I got really, really good results. And I think everything I did had to be very structured. I was like, I have to go train before I start my day. Otherwise, it might be interrupted. So I'm going to wake up early, I'm going to train, and then go about my day. And I remember saying, man, I can't wait until I get out of the Marine Corps. I have all the time in the world to train. I'm going to get so much stronger. And when that hit initially, I started getting weaker because I was getting a little bit softer. I had, I could plan, I could work out whenever I wanted. And I started like procrastinate a little bit. I didn't need to wake up and train at 5 a.m. I could train at 1 p.m. if I wanted. But 1 p.m. turned into 2 p.m., 3 p.m., just kind of get like pushed back. Um, and I just wasn't under as much pressure. So I wasn't really rising to the occasion. And it was the same with when my wife and I had my son, our first kid. I was at a comfortable point in my life where gym was going good, business was going good, scheduling was fine. I could kind of do whatever I wanted during the day. Um, and then once I knew, okay, we got a newborn coming in, things are going to kind of go haywire for a minute. There's going to be a storm coming. I felt like I was on it because I was like, I got to train now. I got to train at 5 a.m. I got to wake up, do this, do that. Got to be more structured so I can have time. And I just tend to do better personally when I have a list of things to do. And it's even sometimes well, almost always, I'm more productive on busy days than I am on free days. There are times when I'm like, oh, I look at my schedule tomorrow. I got nothing on the calendar. I'm gonna get all this stuff done, and I don't. I get like half of it done because I just go slow, or I'm, playing around on my phone, or I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go check this. I just kind of like my brain's all over the place. I'll go tinker with this around the gym. But when I have a set list of I gotta train between 5:45 and 7 a.m. That's my time to train. Those 75 minutes. I do it hard, and then I move on. I go to the next thing. So, anyways, I just tend to do better when I am under pressure rather than just having, the all the time in the world. So personally, I kind of like having those moments or those phases in life where things are a little more difficult on paper to do. I seem to do better actually.
I think it's kind of like what Alberto Nunez said about like fat loss dieting kind of exposes holes in your training for program. Because there's if something's wrong, you're not gonna be able to like recover or adapt to it very well. And if you have more pressure, you're a little bit more aware of like, well, how good are my systems for fitness, and how much of a part of my life is this and a priority. You mentioned in one of your videos that fitness shouldn't be a side hustle. It should always be something that you're trying to find a way to get in something. And I think that like you kind of it goes into what you said about there with having systems in place to where you're realizing, okay, well, if I try to train after work or whatever, like I'm just more tired, I'm more prone to say I'm not doing this. I'm going to drive home and just the couch is just going to be there. I'm just going to get on the couch. Versus if you wake up early in the morning, you're less tired, there's less distractions. You go in, you can get it done. Your workouts are more productive because you have a time crunch and you need to make sure that you're getting through your sets. And whatnot. So it sounds like for you, it was just about having systems in place and embracing that pressure and that the different circumstance instead of like kind of running away from it. And would you say that you kind of had like as similar of a structure as you possibly could, or did you completely change things around?
So it was temporarily it would change things around. Like I remember when I had my second kid, my daughter, it was a little more difficult because now we had a toddler in the house and my daughter, so we had to juggle that. It was more difficult two than one. And so it was just a matter of I'm gonna like for training, if we stick on the topic of training, I'm gonna train today. I don't know when. So whenever they both go down for a nap, that's when I'm gonna train. And or whenever and sometimes that didn't happen. So it was like, all right, they went to, they're in bed, it's 10 p.m. I haven't worked out today. I'm going to work out at 10 p.m., which I never do now. So there's a short period of time where I just had to train whenever because all my schedule was off. But I just make training non-negotiable. Meaning I don't stick. It doesn't mean I stick to a very strict schedule. Like I got to lift it, Monday morning at 6 a.m. It has to happen. It's more of uh, within a week schedule, I guess. It's non-negotiable. Just like I need to eat, I need to brush my teeth, um, I need to train. It's just part of my routine, my daily or weekly routine. And so I just do it whenever I can. It's not I'm going to do it when I'm not tired. I'm going to do it when I have some free time. Uh, it's not something that I put in during free time. It's something that I do just to take care of myself. So I just view it that way, and it seems it's just a matter of where is it going to plug into my schedule more than when will I have time for it.
Or if I'll have time for it?
Yes.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So I want to ask you too, if you were, so a lot of people, kind of get started with the fitness and they don't exactly know like what to do. They don't know what big rocks to focus on because the reality is that a lot of times with fitness industry, we are people kind of focus on the things that don't matter and kind of try to overcomplicate things just to make money. Um, but if you were to sort of create a blueprint for people getting started in the gym and wanted to look and feel better for the rest of their life, what would be the big things that you would have them focus on?
I would do resistance training. I would say resistance training 3 times a week. And each of those sessions would be 30 minutes to an hour long. The resistance training should follow some sort. I like to think about programming movements more so than muscles. Nothing wrong with it. It's just a little bit easier for me to explain to people movements. So what I mean is do 1 to 3 times a week, do some sort of squat pattern. Could be bilateral, could be unilateral, could be a barbell squat, a dumbbell squat, a leg press, a hack squat, some sort of leg machine. Could be a lunge. I would do some sort of hinging pattern, so bending over and picking something up. Deadlift with a barbell, trap bar deadlift, maybe like a deadlift with lever arms or a deadlift machine. Could be picking up a sandbag, picking up a rock, picking up an Atlas stone, picking up farmer's handles. I would do some sort of horizontal pressing motion. Could be push-ups, dumbbell bench, uh, barbell bench, machine chest press, some sort of vertical press. So an overhead press with a bar, dumbbells, machine, cables, um, and then a vertical pull. So a pull down, lat pull down, or a pull up, some sort of horizontal row, barbell row, dumbbell row, back rowing machine. And then I would do some sort of elbow extension and some sort of elbow flexion. So some sort of tricep, some sort of curl. And I would do each of those movement patterns 1 to 3 times a week. And with that weight training approach, it's endless. You could program that and do whatever you want for the rest of your life. I would say repetitions should be between like generally 5 to 15 reps for each of those. And the intensity should be moderately challenging to pretty difficult, somewhere in there. You can work within that range. And then on top of that, I would say 30 to 60 minutes of conditioning or cardio 2 times a week. That could be any form of cardio you want. It could be jogging, it could be a rower, an assault bike, a stationary bike, Stairmaster. It could be a racquetball. It could be a pickup basketball. Um, could be like a hike, as long as there's some intensity behind it. Walking on a treadmill. I wouldn't say walking unless you're just completely flat out untrained. But the cardio should be moderately challenging, like moderately uncomfortable for the whole duration of time. 30 to 60 minutes twice a week. Uh, and that's what I would say as far as do that program for the rest of your life. The variations on that are endless, I think.
Yeah, I like that because I think it just kind of goes to show like there's a lot of different things that you can do, and a lot of it's based off of um per preference. One of the things that I always do like with my clients is like based off of like what exactly are their goals, like what muscle groups they want to like bring up mo mostly. Like one of the things I found is like really fun for a lot of people is like having like a period of time where they're going to put more focus on their back or more focus on their chest, and that's like a good way to help keep them a little bit more involved in that process. But I think that, you met the whole cardio thing. That's something, I think it's something that is so neglected in general and doing conditioning. Um, even for like, just powerlifters and strength athletes, I always say that, outside of just general health, like your recovery is dictated by your cardiovascular conditioning. And if you don't have a baseline level of cardiac health, you're number one going to be less healthy, which is going to result in less progress. And number two, like you're going to be that guy who's going into deadlifts and just gassed because they just are out of shape. And so I think that doing like that conditioning stuff is it's also fun. Like it can be a lot of fun. It's a different sort of challenge, just lifting weights is, and I think it's really good for us to get our heart rate up. A set of higher rep set of squat shouldn't be something that destroys you.
Yeah, I think that I've seen in the gym people who tend to do well, or former athletes who tend to do well. You'd be surprised by how well um, long distance runners, someone who did long distance running in high school, how well they do when they start weight training. Swimmers, soccer players, I've just noticed it in the gym that they can take a lot of training, a lot of volume, and be okay with it. like immediately in the session as well as the next day. And I think it's because they have that huge base of cardiovascular fitness.
Previous like athletic history is like a big thing too with starting trainers. If you have somebody you're teaching RPE or you're saying go until it's hard or challenging, that's different for an athlete versus somebody that's never been in an athlete. But I think the cool thing about that is that it doesn't really necessarily matter because as long as it's progressive for you and you're getting better at it, better at pushing yourself or better at the different movements, you're going to see progress. Um, but I think that also that's one really positive thing about the gym. You were in the military and played sports. It's kind of like that competitive outlet against yourself that I think a lot of people miss later on in life, and it can turn into something that can be really positive long term for people. It's like I feel like that's one of the biggest reasons why I ice train is that it just gives me a goal consistently and like some sense of like grounding and routine habits and structure that I find a lot of people are missing in everyday life.
Yep, I've seen it unfortunately when I work with personal training clients. Former athletes really do know how to kind of tap into that aggressiveness. And I'm not trying to say you need to be like beast mode and go hard and max out all the time, but they're just a little more aggressive when they're lifting. Even as something simple as like when I do bench press, I'm gonna like push with some force. Whereas people who've never done anything physically active, you know, they might be lifting 10% of their max, empty barbell, whatever. And it's so hard to see how difficult it is because they go so slow and they press so slow. And I'm like, all right, on this next set, like try a little bit, and it's like they just can't like tap into that. And so it's just very slow, controlled motion. Step back, please. Um, I'm in my son's room, and so anyways, he's in here now. But yeah, just that a bit of aggressiveness. Someone who's a former athlete can kind of tap into that and actually try hard in the gym, whereas someone who's never experienced that, it's a little more challenging for them.
Yeah, I think that definitely is a skill that people need to develop. But as long as you're just working on honing that skill, um, it's going to be you're going to see progress. I guess one last thing I wanted to ask you is, you had some time working with barbell medicine, going from being I believe you were first for a starting strength coach, right?
Yep.
And then you went to barbell medicine. What were some things that you sort of changed your mind on regarding training or injury when you were working, like making that transition from like starting strength to like barbell medicine and then working with like Austin Brockie specifically?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. I would say that I think the approach to training, the fact that you can incorporate some variety in your exercise routine, in your exercise variation, and your rep range variation, uh, and then in the intensity as well. Whereas when I was a starting strength coach, it was like sets of five or best. Don't do any more. Don't do any less. Squat, bench, deadlift, overhead press is all you need, and it's got to be as heavy as possible, or else there's no sense in doing it. Can't be submaximal ever. So I was very rigid with that, and then as well as technique, it's got to be done exactly the way that starting strength teaches it, no matter what, no matter what your body type, preference, none of that matters. Whereas, so it was just a bit of a softening, like, okay, maybe we could use some exercise variation here. Maybe we could do more or less than 5 reps. Maybe it is productive to do sets that are less than RP 10 or 100% intensity. So that would be the first and foremost, going from like starting strength to working with the barbell medicine guys or working with Austin Baraki was just a little bit different approach in that sense would be the main thing. And then some other small things like starting strength for the most part, like the book and what they preach is it's like I'm just throwing out a number, but like 90% there. It's really, really good information. So I'm not saying it's useless or it's a load of crap or anything. But as far as some things like everyone needs to aggressively gain weight, you need to drink, a gallon of milk, you need to increase body weight or else what's the point? That stuff I don't get behind that. Mainly just from a health perspective. Like telling the majority of people that they need to gain weight is not helping them at all. I'm sure if you're 6 feet tall, 110 pounds, malnourished, yeah, you need to eat. But telling people that hey, you're not going to get strong if you want to, you know, squat 300 pounds. You've got to get your body weight up to 250 pounds. It's just ridiculous. So that stuff would be what I have the biggest disagreement with.
Yeah, I think that the whole body weight thing, and like I think that back then we didn't know as much about surpluses anyways, and like the degree that it impacted gains. I know we have some more recent research that Eric Helms did with like a 1%, like a maintenance or like 5% surplus or 10%. And there was no difference in muscle or strength gains past like that 5% surplus. And I think that that's something that's a little bit more we understand a little bit better. I think also like starting strength was a little bit like that they haven't really updated a lot of things. And there's been a lot more like new emerging research, whereas barbell medicine, Jordan Weigelong, and all of them have had different they've been able to keep up with research. And like I know that I had Jordan actually on to specifically talk about what he changed his mind on. Um I think that yeah, that's also a really good point about like how intensely you do need to train to get stronger. Like I've learned like wow, I was training like way too hard to get stronger. And I think it changes too. Like, I think if you're a beginner, like you can go, starting strength is great, because like the reality is that you're going to be making such fast neurological adaptations. And I think arguably the most important thing is to learn how to work hard when you are starting off into the gym. But once you have that skill developed, it's kind of about understanding your spots and like where to take them. Like for example, like I know that Austin had really a lot of success doing heavier top sets and then just really light down sets and just waiting for the adaptations and having that progressive loading mindset instead of forcing that, which starting strength kind of has. And that's something that I kind of have realized as I've gotten hurt. Like the gift of this injury has been like, oh, I don't really need to go of like you know the mid 500s for like triples from like my volume to get stronger. And most of that strength stimulus for me is kind of just coming from that top set. Um, and I think that having like different perspectives too and learning from other like people is also valuable and because it kind of increases your toolkit as everybody has like a different experience in the gym and with their own training. I think it's really important to also like just understand like where different people are coming from and like what impacts like why that might have worked for them because you mentioned the blueprint. There's a lot of different ways to go about fitness. It's about finding what you enjoy the most and what's most sustainable for you. And I think that that's probably the most important thing is like you probably stumbled upon strongman and powerlifting early on because you just liked it. You weren't like forcing that. That's what you had to do. I think lots of times people are like, oh, I have to do bodybuilding, I have to do bodybuilding. It's like, find what you enjoy. If that's running and you love endurance training, go crazy. If that's, powerlifting, if that's bodybuilding, like just find what you like and pursue it wholeheartedly. That would be my biggest like advice to anybody who's getting started is like, don't half-ass it. Like go all the way in because you're going to be really surprised, I think, with kind of progress you'll get if you're fully committed to yourself instead of kind of not fully all the way there. Because I think that mentality you need to have around like what you're doing is so important.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd agree 100%.
Cool, Alan. I really appreciate you being willing to come on. If people want to follow you or find you and go to Untamed Strength, where should they head?
Yeah. So Instagram's Untamed Strength. YouTube channel is Untamed Strength or Alan Thrall, both will pull up. And then if you're in the area, the gym's in Sacramento, California. The website's trainuntamed.com. And you'll find all other links and stuff like that through that website, as well as the Instagram and YouTube.
Perfect. I'll make sure I include all those details in the show notes. And thank you guys for listening to this episode. I'll talk to you in the next one.